Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wakar Kadash, and the Heavenly Father. True name is Yahweh, and His unbegotten Son, Bahashem, in the name of Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo-Hebrew, the logical Dash, the Holy Tongue, and I say Barakatham to the elders and apostles, Wa'akin, Ba'akwaf, and I say Shalom. And this is a quick sit-down lesson of the World War III news updates as of May the 19th, 2026, on this Tuesday night. And as we've been seeing, the rise in tensions be heating up between Russia and Ukraine, and then NATO versus Russia versus NATO been heating up as well too. Belarus and Russia recently did a military exercise drills with the impending tensions been heating up between Russia and Russia and Belarus versus NATO. That's been heating up as well too as of lately. It says NATO. This is from RT.com. It says NATO's nuclear moves will not go unanswered. Moscow reports Russian military planners will respond to France's new forward nuclear deterrent strategy. Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Reklavov has said. Get to that Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, because Russia is going to be in that warlike mindset. As this modern day back and forth on and off tensions been heating up between Russia and NATO. Ezekiel 38 verse 4, it says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. And I will bring thee forth from all thy army, horse and horsemen, all of them with claw, all sorts of armor, even a great couple of buck shields, all of hand swords. Right, so the prophet Ezekiel was mentioned that the Heavenly Father is going to put the hooks in actually jaws of the Russians, because Russia represents the bear in Ezekiel the 38th chapter. We see that increasing on a daily basis. This is Matthew 24 in verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Right, we're hearing wars and rumors of wars on a daily basis. We're hearing the rumors, and we're hearing the rumors. We're hearing wars and rumors of wars. Wars are increasing, and rumors of wars are increasing as well too. It says, see that you be not troubled, for all these things must first come to pass, but the end is not yet. Right, so we're seeing the ongoing, back and forth on and off tensions be heating up between Russia and Iran. Russia and let me rephrase that. We've been seeing, the on and off back and forth tensions been heating up between the United States armies versus Iran, and then Iran of the pro-Iranian groups going against the Israel Defense Force between the borders of Israel and Lebanon. So these are signs we're hearing wars and rumors of wars heating up. Matthew 24 and verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, which goes to ethnos, and there shall be famines and pestilence, and earthquakes in diverse places. So I'm going to look up that news article about the recent military exercise drills between Belarus and Russia. Recent exercise drill between Russia and Belarus. And this is from WDW.com. It says Belarus launched drills involving Russian nuclear weapons. The Belarus defense minister says the drills would test its readiness to deploy nuclear missiles. Ukraine decried the exercise as Russian. Yep, it says Belarus launched drills involving Russia's nuclear weapons, which they previously did. Now they previously test them once again. It says Russia stage Slovakia. If I go back to it. Yep, it says this is from WDW News. It says Russia staged a major military drill in wake of Ukraine drone surge. DW reports. Hope I can play this. Fair use.
Russia has launched a major 3-day military exercise involving tens of thousands of troops, naval forces, aircraft, and nuclear-capable systems. Moscow says the drills are designed to test military readiness and strategic deterrence, while exercises with Belarus are also expected to include the deployment of tactical nuclear weapons. Now, the exercise involves 64,000 troops, more than 200 missile launchers, and nuclear-armed submarines from Russia's northern and Pacific fleets. It also comes as President Putin begins his set 2-day visit to China. All the timing is also attracting attention because it follows Ukraine's largest drone attack inside Russia. Kyiv also claimed strikes on energy and industrial targets at the weekend. Marina Miron is a military analyst at King's College London. Welcome back to DW, Marina. So we're talking about tens of thousands of troops, naval forces, aircraft, and nuclear-capable systems. How big a deal is this exercise, especially when we factor in the fact that, well, Russia presumably currently has lots of troops tied up in Ukraine at the moment?
Good afternoon. Well, it's a big deal for Belarus and, of course, for Russia because such exercises have not only a military importance in terms of testing of systems, testing the capabilities of troops and the readiness of troops, but also the mutual integration, or shall we say Belarus's military's integration with Russian systems. This is also a strategic exercise which is supposed to send a message to the bordering countries, so namely NATO's eastern flank. So from that perspective, it is important to show that there is, on the one hand, readiness. On the other hand, there is a forward deployment of Russia's nuclear-capable missiles. We know that Oreshnik is being stationed in Belarus, so it is important for those reasons.
And as you say, nuclear-capable systems involved in these drills. How worried should we be about that?
Well, I don't think that it has anything to do with being worried. It is just a strategic message. In other words, we have seen that in previous years as well. So it is not something that is absolutely new and is happening for the first time. This has been happening since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, this close integration between Belarus and Russia, and later the stationing of Oreshnik. So essentially, it is, as every year, it is a message to NATO that there is this capability, and both Russia and Belarus reserve the right to use this capability in accordance with a new doctrine which outlines the possible uses for nuclear-capable weapons.
And this is set against a backdrop of Ukraine and its drone campaign increasingly reaching targets deeper inside Russia. How is that changing Russia's military planning and tactics?
Well, in terms of military planning, we have seen those long-range attacks for a while. If you recall, several years ago, the very first attack was prior to the May celebrations in Russia's attempt at drone striking the Kremlin or the Ministry of Defense, if I'm not mistaken. And over the years, Ukraine has become quite sophisticated technologically, which, of course, is a difficult matter for Russia because you have vast spaces that need to be protected, and Russian layered air defenses are not designed to intercept cheap drones. They're designed to intercept intercontinental ballistic missiles. They're designed to intercept other types of cruise missiles, fighter jets, and so on, but not drones. And so it is difficult to know where Ukraine will strike, and we see what Ukraine is doing is trying to broaden the geographic area on the one hand, and on the other hand, the drone technologies change very fast. So in other words, if you have electronic warfare systems designed to jam specific type of drones, they might be outdated just in a couple of weeks, and we're seeing this from the battlefield. And therefore, it's always a catch-up game which is requiring a lot of resources. So for the Kremlin and for the chief of general staff, the question is how many resources can you allocate in order to ensure that key strategic facilities are well defended. And that, of course, takes away from the overall military budget because you need to allocate those resources elsewhere.
And it's interesting just to see that Russia is having the same difficulties with this new drone technology as NATO is.
Absolutely, and we have seen that no air defense system is going to protect you to 100%. We have seen that with Israel and Iran. And at a point, air defense systems get overwhelmed. Ukraine is also using decoy drones. Those strikes that Ukraine prepares on Russian territory, it's not something that is prepared overnight. Also, intelligence on the ground will be working to determine the targets, to determine the best targets. And we also recall the Operation Pavutina, spiderweb, conducted by the Ukrainian intelligence. Another kind of showcase that even nuclear site is, or rather a site where strategic bombers are located, is not protected enough against such seemingly cheap drones. So therefore, it is not surprising, especially at the pace at which technology is being developed. As I said, Ukraine has developed a very good ecosystem cooperating with Western companies and startups in order to quickly develop very sophisticated drones.
Right. But I suppose another aspect of this, the use of these drones deep into Russian territory, is that previously the Kremlin was able to present this war as a distant threat, as a nothing over there, nothing that's relevant to Russian life. But now these strikes are causing fires and power outages and supply disruptions, even hitting Moscow and disrupting Russians' daily lives. Does that now factor into Kremlin thinking, that the fact that this war has come home?
Of course it will factor into Kremlin thinking. What we have to understand is that Russia is very big, so we cannot say the Russian population is dissatisfied or is satisfied. It is very fragmented when it comes to opinions, and the population in Moscow is very different from let's say, Yekaterinburg or Perm or Bryansk or Kursk. And that is a completely different sort of pressure that the Kremlin is facing. And as a matter of fact, many Telegram channels have been criticizing the Kremlin for its response to the drone attack. So certainly when there are disruptions in the capital, that's from the Ukrainian perspective, that's symbolically a very important target in order to reach, so to say, the elites, which is completely different from strikes in any other part of Russia, while St. Petersburg would be probably slightly similar. So yes, this is creating pressure, but specifically not just the dissatisfaction, which is according to polls has risen by 10% to 26%. How reliable that information is another question. But the whole matter is that there are calls from war bloggers to escalate, of course. And that is another type of pressure. Rather than ending the war in Ukraine, this pressure is calling for intensifying it.
Listen, just going back to those military exercises, this is Russia and Belarus working together. How important is Belarus to Russia's war effort?
Well, Belarus has been used for the initial stages of the Russian quote-unquote special military operation. So from that perspective, Belarus has been an important ally geographically. Belarus has always been there as a kind of a buffer for the Russians or for the Kremlin. And we do remember Alexander Lukashenko's role in the Wagner Group march. So Belarus has been, even before the war, has been a very close ally of Russia. Belarus is economically dependent, but it has kept a low profile until, of course, February 2022.
And just finish on that notion of buffers around Russia, because we're looking at a situation where perhaps this war could be read as a major strategic miscalculation. Not only has it not happened at the lightning speed that Russia presumed, but Russia's also increased the number of enemies on its doorstep, with Finland, Sweden, and Ukraine now siding with NATO. And it finds itself more physically vulnerable to attack. So that buffer is now much thinner, much smaller.
Well, it depends on how you look at it, because we have to look at the entire globe. The first thing is, of course, when it comes to Russia-Europe relations and basically the borders that Russia shares with Finland, which is now a NATO member. From that perspective, yes, it was a miscalculation from the Russian side, and I argue that it was not even the military that was awaiting to have this operation wrapped up in 3 days. That was a huge intelligence failure, which has dragged the military into this war, and we have seen that there was no strategy in the kind of at the very beginning, right? So Russia has underestimated perhaps NATO's unity and Ukrainian capability, or Ukrainian armed forces capability to resist the Russian forces, and therefore probably the calculus was that it would be quick and it would be much easier. But if we look at it from the other side, we have other countries that have shown anti-Western, or say anti-European and anti-US sentiment, and which are supporting Russia. So essentially, when we look at it locally, you're absolutely right. But if you look at it globally, the picture is completely different. Russia has a foothold on the African continent, Burkina Faso, and so on. Mali is now a big question. The BRICS countries, China, Turkey is very ambitious in this whole line out. We have Serbia, again, European continent. We have several Latin American countries. We have countries in the Middle East, such as United Arab Emirates, if you recall how Putin was received there. So in the entire makeup of how this all turned out, certainly Russia has lost some things, but it has reinforced its position elsewhere, and this is something that we have to understand.
That's an area worth exploring further at some stage. Thanks for talking us through that, Marina. I'm military analyst Marina Miron from King's College London.
Thank you for having me.
Matthew 24 verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. Revelations 11 verse 14. Right, so like it says in Revelation 11 verse 14, the second will pass, behold, the third will come quickly. So with that, this was just a quick sit down lesson of the World War III news updates as of May the 19th, 2026 on this Tuesday night. So hopefully this was edifying through the spirit, progress, and mercy of Yahweh Yahushua. And I'd like to give all praises and glory unto Yahweh Hashem. Yahushua Bahashem Makakadash. In the Heavenly Father, true name is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, Bahashem, in the name of Hamashiach Yahushua. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Lashkadash, the Holy Tongue. And I say Barakatham to the elders and apostles, wa Akim, wa Akwaf. Until next time, I would say Shalom.